Okay, let me see. So as I said, my career started late 60s when I entered my graduate school. And this is my PhD. I boast that this is probably the first computer program which recognized human faces at that time. Since then, I worked on many different things, mostly vision, robotics, including autonomous systems, robots, and air vehicles, and many kind of different things. And probably the ones that are related to your everyday life is, when you have a cell phone and try to take a picture, often you got a square on faces, and that I think I can brag that that's the beginning that I started back in late 90s. And also in mid-90s, our team actually of Carnegie Mellon drove autonomous vehicle driverlessly, but not 100%, 98.2% autonomously from Pittsburgh to San Diego, 3,000 miles. Now, it's not 100%, so a person was at the driver's seat and, of course, not driving, but just in case, because the program was not perfect. It's funny to say that, for developers to say it, but it's not as trustworthy. So you have to do this, and when you drive, and then let it do, and then when something wrong happens, hold it and do this. I used to say driving autonomously is more tiring than driving yourself from the beginning. And that was the joke that I used to say. Now, however, today I'd like to talk one particular topic of my research, which is many camera technologies. Using many cameras, technology that use many cameras for doing the various things, ranging from modeling the world to entertainment. And probably the best known of its beginning, the middle part, was development of the system called iVision at Super Bowl 35, 2001. It's movie matrix-like replay system. Have you seen movie Matrix? I haven't seen it. But in its climax, the main character jumps and he spins. Do you know how it was taken? In the studio, about 200 or so cameras are placed pointing at the center. And then at the center, actor acts. And one of the cameras captures the movement. And at the right moment, all of the cameras take a picture. And they are shown one by one, concatenated. So how it works is like this. And then the camera, which is from this direction, looks like this. The camera from this direction looks like this. Camera from this direction looks like this. So by concatenating, you see as if the time is frozen because they were taken at the same time, and the person is spinning on its axis. Now, so the CBS wanted to do the same for American football. But the difference is the football field is large. Moreover, you cannot predefine, like a studio, where the right thing will occur. You don't know beforehand. So instead of having the fixed cameras, all of the cameras were replaced by a robot camera that can pan, tilt, zoom, so that the right position is tracing along the game develops. So that at each moment, movie matrix-like setting is prepared. And therefore, all the cameras were placed around the stadium, and all of them are controlled from the control room. And that was set up in Florida, Tampa, 33 cameras were placed at the second deck of the stadium. And they were connected from each camera to a control room by a cable, each of which was 500 meters. So cable alone is longer than 18-kilometer system. It's a huge system, and this is how it worked.
Now, during today's coverage of Super Bowl 35, CBS Sports will introduce a new technology called 𝗖𝒍𝒕𝒊. It provides panoramic coverage similar to the special effects in the hit movie The Matrix.
Sports announcer.
Here at the Super Bowl, 30 robotic cameras have been mounted on the scoreboard and all along the upper deck at intervals of 7 degrees. Each camera feeds into one of the 30 specially designed digital recording devices.
At that time, 2001,
the images are then
it took this big box
to instantaneously show any spot on the
memorize the video. Today it's about this size.
220-degree range. Professor Takeo Kanade of Carnegie Mellon was designing the software that blends 30 cameras into one dynamic panorama.
This is a gigantic robotic system. You have to have perfect idea of the direction, position of the cameras, and the relationship of the amount of zoom, amount of focus to the command that you give from the computer. And that is one of the hardest jobs.
Players out, takes the pass.
This is inside the control room.
Past the 40 to about the 41-yard line.
All right, here it is. This is an example during the warm-ups, taken just a moment ago. The pass from Banks to Davis, and look at the way it can whip around. We're all looking forward to it. And by the way, it can be used in instant replay situations in the case of a
superstars.
We will talk from time to time tonight about 𝗖𝒍𝒕𝒊. If you're wondering what it is, this is what it looks like.
You got a pass rush, quarterback, he drops back. Look, he sees a big lane. Look at that big lane, so he steps up into it. What always makes it easy for a quarterback is to have a clean line of sight. Watch Trent Dilfer, nice look off, looks to his left, and nobody.
So that's how it worked. You know, the Super Bowl is a big deal in the United States. More than 500 million people watch throughout the world. And I was there. And it was part of the contract between Carnegie Mellon and CBS. The contract explicitly said that Professor Takeo Kanade must appear during the broadcast for 30 seconds with his name and title clearly shown. It's a part of the contract. Do you know how much it costs if you want to have a commercial in Super Bowl? 1 second costs you $100,000 US. 25 seconds, $2.5 million worth. So since then, I boast myself to be the only professor that has ever appeared on Super Bowl. And thank you. And that is the title that has never been taken by anybody yet. So now, of course, that should replace by the Global IT Award that I got this year. Thank you. So anyway, now how it worked. Now, stereo is, we use human for measuring the distance. We have two eyes. And as you know, by computing so-called disparity, the difference between the right eye and left eye appearance tells you the difference to the icon. Now, we use two cameras, two eyes. Should it be two? Isn't it better to use more than two? It's obvious to use more the better. So actually, I did that. I built around the beginning of 90s 5-camera stereos, which actually work better than traditional two-eye stereo, naturally. And it generated, at that time, at video rate, 35 frames per second, the distance image as well as the color image, just like one. Okay? It took $3 million to build this machine at that time. And it used 5 kilowatts. So as soon as we turned on the machine, the whole lab became hot. It really. Now today, you can buy the same thing with only $100. So how big the advancement of the technology is. Now with that, if since I have the distance, which means the shape and appearance, so I should be able to compute how the object will look like from other direction. That's what computer graphics does. However, if we do that, then, if from here, I cannot see a person's behind. And so if I move the position, there will be a hole, which is not a visible part, like that. So how can we remove that? The best thing to do is actually to put more cameras. If you have two positions, less occluded parts. Now there's still occlusion, therefore put more. So eventually you can imagine a room is covered full of cameras and the whole situation is modeled. And that was the vision that I had mid-90s. So the hallmark of Carnegie Mellon Robotics Institute, as soon as you think, you build. So we did. We built a 50 camera system at that time with the cameras. And it looks like Hitchcock movie's Birds, but each one is actually a camera, 50 cameras. And the whole scene is digitized. And when the say basketball is played, then I call it 4D model, X, Y, Z, and T. And therefore, you can see the whole events from any viewpoints as you like. You can see the as from above and so forth. Oops. Yeah. And so you can actually fly through the events too. And eventually, my slogan at that time was, let's watch the NBA on the court. So the NBA game, imagine this is the NBA court, then the whole court is covered by cameras. And if we can digitize the whole thing and broadcast it, then at home, you can watch the NBA game from anywhere you like, sitting inside the court. You can block Michael Jordan's shoot, because he doesn't know you're there. Or you can watch the game from the ball's point of view too. So that was how I thought, and that's when the iVision people came to me to build the system. Now, this didn't happen, but may happen. Now, today, multi-camera technologies are everywhere. I think you see today iVision like sports broadcast, almost many major sports events, and large area 3D modeling, and many cameras on a car. By the way, these days the cars has about more than 10 cameras, sometimes 20 cameras looking around you. And even cell phone these days is more than 2, 3, 4, 5 cameras are there. And all kinds of, even microscope, by the way, has more than one, can have a multi-camera which generate the 3D shape. Now, interestingly, when we wrote the first paper of that 5-camera stereo machine, the paper was rejected by IEEE. Rejected. Rejected means this paper is not worthwhile to publish. Can you imagine the reason? Devices that use this many unnecessary cameras are too expensive to be useful. Now, reviewers are supposed to be an expert. And that's what they thought at that time. And today, as I said, 5 cameras are nothing, 10 cameras are nothing, 200 cameras, nothing. So, well, if you say so, I thought maybe I should go the other direction. So we began to build 1,000 camera systems at Carnegie Mellon. Now, right now, we have about 480 cameras, and it can actually see the whole thing inside this 10-meter dome and capture events. And interesting actually can happen. Now, this is not the direct use of this device, this facility, but the data from this one was used to do even this. Now, this program, which you can actually download from internet, can understand what is the posture you're doing in real time from any video. So, if I have in other words, I know, the computer knows that you're doing this, or you're doing this, or you're doing this, or you're doing this, any time. And even, by the way, at the level of finger. And you can imagine use of this kind of program. In other words, the computer actually can tell you're doing this. It's a big difference between this, and this, and this, or this, and so forth.
The opposite of ditch.
And computer knows that. So you can easily see many interesting applications.
Secretly move the needle.
Or, let me see. Well, let's see. The whole body shape can actually understood by this facility. And right now we're using more than about tens or so cameras, but in the future we should be able to do this with much less number of cameras. And my friend, Dr. 𝗂𝒂𝒄𝒂𝒎𝒆𝒓𝒂, who is now leading Pittsburgh Facebook Oculus Lab, built even better system. This is a beautiful system that has this 160 cameras. If you sit inside, a whole view of you is captured by when you're doing many expressions and so forth. And an application of that is...
Well, what can your face do? Can you show us?
Even
I've
with
always hoped you would ask me
the
that
goggle.
question.
See, if you have
I
a
have some
goggle, AR goggle,
movement.
then another person cannot
How about
see
your
you.
eyes? Can you look left,
But
right,
this
up,
system
down?
actually can give that
Good.
Yeah.
naked
Eyes, ooh.
face
I think one
view
of my favorites is puffing my cheeks.
of each other, even though two are actually
And rolling my
wearing
That's pretty good.
the goggles.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, not a lot of
And I
people
think-
can do that.
It was possible
one sort of good
because
test is, can we get through,
the
like, the
the
first
model
features of the
of
alphabet?
how humans move, the muscle and so forth,
B,
is
C,
obtained
D,
from
E,
that
F,
facility.
G.
Now, I'd like to end with my talk, what I'm thinking these days, which is hop on, hop off, real-time, interactive virtual tourism. Idea is the following. 2025, there will be World Expo in Osaka, Japan. Now, if you think of it, Expo site is a gigantic many-camera system. What do I mean by that? 60,000 people in average at the site. Now, as usual, almost all of them probably has a cell phone. He's busy, he or she is busy in taking pictures and videos everywhere. Now, some of them, maybe when you pay the fee, visitor fee, maybe organizer can give you by then very cheap wearable camera like that. And then the person is taking video all the time. Moreover, you can imagine the pendant-like cameras that you might be wearing and walk around. So, if you think that way, and moreover, there will be fixed camera system at the site. And overall, you can think of this site more about 100,000 camera system. 100,000 camera system. And think of that. If you think of the density of the cameras, that panoptic studio that I showed you, 480 camera system, that is about 4 cameras per square meters. Now, the density is not that high, but at the highest moment, it's about 0.5 camera per square meter. So it's not bad. So if we can actually worldwide video stream them, what can happen? And that's my vision. Hop on, hop off virtual tourism. What does that mean? A remote user, say you may not be at the World Expo site, but you can actually hop on the view of a particular visitor, say me, and you will experience the same experience as I am having, the same scene, same people that I meet, from your home. You hop on me. Now, I might volunteer to be a guide to you. So you might ask me a question, and I might be able to give you some explanation and so forth. Or we can be a friend. Now, if I don't want that, I may not do. You hop on me. Now, sooner or later, you're tired of what I'm looking at, or you want to go left, you want to go right, I may be going to left. Don't worry, there are enough people around over there. Therefore, you hop off from me and hop on another one who is going to the other direction. So this is different from so-called virtual tourism that use, for example, many cameras that was taken, many videos or data that was taken beforehand and built a so-called site model, and you go around so-called virtual visit. That is a static. This is the one that is going, that you are experiencing what is going on now, and you should be able to share that excitement. Moreover, you can actually go beyond space and time. What do I mean? If I'm a real visitor, if I'm looking at this very interesting thing, I cannot, the only thing I can do is maybe about this much, right? Because there are many people. But if you're a remote user, you can actually go around, no problem, because enough people around it. And the system may provide you smooth transition among people. Or you may actually want to see how this thing or place changed over time. Don't worry, because the same thing has been seen by many people in the past continuously. So you actually hop on the history of this event or place or combined. So you can actually go over space and over time. And finally, there's an easy thing that you can imagine, that are awesome augmented reality. Pokemon or Doraemon, which is the Japanese figure, will be there, and you might have some, they might give you more information or some extra entertainment. So overall, I imagine that this can be potentially even richer experience than real visit. And that's what my vision of hop-on, hop-off technologies. Now, obviously, there are many technologies required, including 5G and so forth, and I don't want to go into detail. But I'd like to say one thing in the last, that is, this is not just for fun. Imagine the disaster response. Disaster response. Serious disaster, like earthquake and so forth occurred. Now, many rescuers, responders, are spread over the site. And I might, one responder, find a place that may be survivor there, but there was not a good machine to help to save them. Now, I have to report that. Now, when I report that, the next people come and they understand what has been found. So isn't this exactly the situation where I'm talking about? See, the scenario is that the big area covered by many people, each of whom may be acting independently or with a little coordination, but as a whole, we should be able to have a coordinated idea of what's happening over the area. So, ranging from ad hoc, eye vision, like sports one. Think of it. The whole stadium, if 50,000 people are there, there's a 50,000 camera system ad hocly there without actually building the machine system like eye vision. And we should be able to take advantage of that whole camera system. So that was the idea of this thing. And as I said, computer vision and robotics, these are the example, is a state of perfect storm. Perfect storm is the word that originally three conditions, bad conditions, occur to generate a serious storm. Now, sometimes it is used opposite, positive things. And this is one example. I think computer vision and robotics is the state of perfect storm because we have new and ubiquitous sensors, including cameras and sound. I just said, by the way, cameras, but obviously sound is usable and other sensors usable in my scenario of hop on, hop off. And powerful learning algorithms and low power, high performance processor, as well as the communication. So three combined, I think we are at the stage of the perfect storm of computer vision and robotics. And if we extend our imagination, we should be able to develop totally new and even superhuman capabilities. I did not have enough time to talk about these superhuman capabilities, but we're working on things like seeing behind the door. Now we are now these days able to see behind that door from here, and we have a demonstration, and all those things are now beginning to be possible. And I think the only thing that limit our development is our limit of imagination. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Excellent vision, excellent talk. We can take few questions. If you have few hot questions, it's good time for that. And we have some microphones for you as well. Yes, Richard.
Impressive presentation. From your experience, if I could ask you, when you think about a new concept and you start working on it, theorizing it, bringing it to reality eventually, what is the life cycle, what is the length of time in months or years that you have seen in your life that when you generate these ideas till they become economically and pervasively distributed into the public? What has that average time span cycle been for you?
Good question. I think you may see that. I'm a super optimistic person. So I always think that things will happen within few years. Reality is not true. For example, when we were doing autonomous driving back in 80s, we started 1980s, 85 actually, and 10 years later we demonstrated no hands across America, and 20 years later now, it's about to happen. So some people actually praised me. Dr. Kanade, did you see 30 years ahead? And I said, no. I thought autonomous driving will happen 3 years. Indeed, my proposal to DARPA said that it will happen in 4 years. So how bad my anticipation was. So, well, this is true, by the way, and I think this anecdote will at least tells me that as an engineer, as a developer, I think we have to think that it will happen soon, and we work toward it. Unless we work toward it, I don't think we find the limitation. And indeed, in the case of autonomous driving, we found one after another limitation. At that time, what's wrong? Even, by the way, the simplest thing like cameras at that time was not good enough to actually look, did not have enough dynamic range. Even the simplest thing was not there. So I'm afraid I may not be able to answer your question directly, but my take on that is, as an engineer, I think we should not have, how should I say, excuse to say, well, this is such a futuristic idea, please wait 5 years from now, I'll deliver that to you. I think that attitude may not work. I think attitude should be, we deliver you within few years, and actually deliver you times 10. My theory is actually when somebody, I have a joke, when somebody tells me, Professor Kanade, I'll do it in, say, 3 days, and my rule of thumb is multiply by 3, increase the unit to the next level. If it's 3 days, and then 3 weeks. Okay. 3 months, then 3 years, and plus 2. And this 2 is the magic number. And that was my joke. And I think that's maybe true. So sorry didn't answer you directly, but I hope you got the point.
Lots of wisdom. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Well, again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations with what you have achieved in your life, and congratulations with getting this very prestigious international and Armenian prize. I have 3 questions, but you can answer them or skip them. The one is about technology. You were speaking about the stadium and 50,000 small cameras on viewers, or 100,000 if it's a big one. If you make it 200,000, if you make it 300,000, what is that we are going to gain? And isn't there a bypass there? Just we use artificial intelligence, mathematically modeling, instead of having 100,000, you just use what is the minimum of number of cameras that you need to do the whole other job, not with cameras physically, but with mathematics. That's number 1 question. So how many cameras
you mean, what is the minimum number to give you impression of continuity, sort of?
Exactly.
Yes. Interesting question. We actually did the experiment, by the way, in doing the 𝑖𝒍𝒕𝒊. Interestingly, if we have, say, 30 cameras, and removing camera one by one, you don't notice at all. Really, amazingly. Don't do anything. We thought in the beginning, we should actually compute in between images. Instead, we just give this and that, then human somehow imagine in between image. As long as this is, I would say, about, 10 minimum. So if you give 30 degrees, 36 degree-ish distance, about 10, human is so smart, we interpolate how it should look like. Yes.
Yeah, well, exactly the point. If we add to the small number of cameras, artificial intelligence mathematically doing that, helping us, plus we add the big gun, which is our intelligence,
that's right.
Then we get it.
Exactly.
Now, the second question is, because you spoke about sports, it's fascinating. I think I watched this, and I've just used a fascinating technology, which is these goggles. You put them, and when in several European, this is something that probably you don't know as a sport, it's called football. In America, they don't know what is that, soccer. So basically is that with the 32 cameras there, you are creating a fantastic view of the whole stadium, and you wear this. The beauty of it is that I was sitting there and I was watching the game with the 32 cameras from a box, virtual box, but at the same time I was speaking to a friend who was using that, the same from California. So I think And the whole thing was very, very real. Again, it comes to second question, how far we can go and what is that we want to do to use technology for our entertainment. And the second thing, now in Europe, in many ways, they are using technology, the video cameras, to see was there a goal or not. You know what's the reaction of a lot of soccer people that love soccer? They don't like it. It's too precise. I think you don't give the opportunity to a mistake of the guy who is just has to make a decision. So it makes it a bit mechanical. So where is the boundary? Because the technology and the entertainment and the thing that we will love.
I think that's a very fundamental, deep question. My take about that is, I think for entertainment, it must increase the value of entertainment. And this quote correctness, like judgment and so forth, I think it's a different matter. By the way, the trust, you're actually touching a very almost philosophical issue. Where does the trust to the technology come from? So let's think of it. Telephone, long time ago, was actually connecting between you, me, and you by a single line. And I know, and you know, that what I said is directly transformed in electric signal and transmitted to you, and then generate the sound. So I thought, and you know what I thought, that if I say yes, it will be unlikely or even impossible to get to you no. Now, sooner or later, PCM came in, which is actually chop the signal and then code it. And so forth. And today, by the way, over the internet, what I said is actually divided into a small piece of information and sent it separately as a packet, and at the other hand, they are collected and actually regenerated as a sound. Do you believe that it will never have the chance that what I said yes will be transformed into no? There might be. But we trust it. We trust it. Same is true with anti-locking brake. When you push the brake, actually the anti-locking brake is actually doing opposite, which is releasing the brake and telling me that it's actually better to release it in order to stop. So it is actually doing opposite what I wanted to do, but it tells me that it's better to me, and we somehow trust it. And the same thing is true, by the way, with this Hawkeye, which is a tennis ball thing. As a technologist, I can tell you, there's no way, no reason to believe that display. If there's a developer of that system, sorry about that, but the computation of that marker depends on all kinds of assumptions, which the system does not know. It's even better, and I was surprised that professional tennis players to whom in and out means $100,000 somehow believe in it. So I think this answers some of your question, which is I think we somehow have to convince people in the correct way, and that issue actually that issue exists in artificial intelligence. Somehow it's on the way that it is, people believe in it, some people doubt about it, and so forth. And it's a very interesting philosophical question. And it's very hard to answer your question perfectly, but I just want to mention these things.
Thank you, Dr. Kanade. Thank you. We have a question from Mr. Jeb.
First of all, thanks a lot for sharing your passion today. Like President Sarkisian and yourself, I share a huge passion for technology and how it can support human in general. Looking at artificial intelligence, looking at augmented people, looking at cameras, I'll take a step back from technology and I'll ask you a simple question. How do you address the topic of privacy and ethics in that field?
With so many cameras.
Cameras or anything
With
like
so
that.
many cameras around us, yeah.
It is a huge topic.
There are the two answers to that. One somewhat joking answer, which is this. Well, I say, don't you forget the fact that when you and I talk, see, I actually had an idea of this wearable camera, and the people said, Dr. Kanade, if I hate that because I don't want you to take pictures of me, videos of me, and I said, don't you know that and then I said, why? Because, but I said, but you're okay, it's okay for me, it's okay for you, for me to look at you. And he said, well, because my view is not replayable. And I said, don't you know that I have a special capability to actually video replay? You don't know, but I can do. So again, it's a related. So that's a somewhat joking answer. The other one is, by the way, the better answer to that question is the following. I actually have what I named Kanade equations for the best robot. What is the best robot? People ask. And I say, best robot does what you want to do. That's the typical answer. I said no. Best robot should do what you want to do minus what you can do. In other words, best robot should provide the difference between what you can do, what you want to do, and what you can do. And then I say, here's a magic equation, plus minus delta. If it provides plus delta, you feel, oh, it's so kind. If it does minus delta, then it is challenging you because you have to add that delta. And that is a good thing, by the way, for older people to retain the capability or even regain the capabilities. So the best robot should do is, I say, is what you want to do minus what you can do, plus minus delta. So I think the video technology may be the same thing. I think I talk about this, the huge thing, yeah? Now, most of the things that I mentioned, human cannot do at all because we have only one position at one time. That's all we can do. So most of the things that I'm talking about is hopefully providing what natural human cannot do. So people may like it. If they don't like it, probably they shouldn't use it. And I think that's the right thing to do. Yeah. So, sorry again. These are such a difficult philosophical question. Maybe when I get older, I'm old enough already, but I should be a little more philosopher. Maybe my next career could be a philosopher.
Plus minus delta, but plus minus epsilon, which is very, very small.
Yes.
Because delta could be big and it would upset you or please you.
Absolutely.
So the best robot is your model plus when delta becomes epsilon close to zero.
You are very right, by the way. Very right.
He's the mathematician, yeah.
Very right. Very right. It is actually known in rehabilitation technology that delta, if delta is too big, actually the person will give up the regain. Yes, the right amount of delta, just as you said, will promote him to be motivated to rehabilitate. Yes, perfect observation. Yes.
Thanks a lot for the observation and the great talk.